there's a period between which you realize that the storm is over and when you were in the thick of the storm. So how do you identify that, okay, I'm in the storm, this difficult situation is finally ending?
Oh, you'll know.
Okay. Because sometimes when you're going through things, it's just one thing after the other. You just
every storm runs out of water. So your husband suddenly died or your wife suddenly died. We've had cases where the woman dies and leaves a newborn baby. So I get you in that sense. So you buried your wife, but you still have the baby to deal with. One day at a time. You're looking for help. Who's going to help you take care of the baby? One day you'll realize that, baby is being taken care of. You've resumed work. The pain is still there, but you've survived the storm. Okay, so your husband left you for another woman. You didn't even know where to turn, what to do. You went through all that, all the tears every day. And one day you woke up and you realized you were not crying. Okay, so it's gone. Okay, what next? You're picking up the pieces, you're moving on. If it was a storm and you had gone to hide under your bed and rolled yourself in a blanket because you were afraid, one day you'll be lying under the bed and you realize that there's no wind anymore, there's no sound. You come out, it's a slight drizzle, the storm is over. Eventually it ends. So there's nothing that lasts forever, really. There's nothing that lasts forever.
How do you avoid the temptation to just stay there, stay in the, even though the storm has passed, you'll still
be hungry. You'll come out. I'm thinking you'll be hungry at some point.
Because you can actually get stuck in that season of
but I get you. And it's not, let's go beyond the physical. You will see people who the storm is over, but they are still in the place of bitterness. That's what you're talking about.
Exactly, yes.
The man left them 15 years ago. The children have finished school. The children are about to marry. She's still bitter. Why are you going to marry in your father's house? Where do you want the child to marry? You picked this man as father. Do you understand? They are still so bitter and they are holding. And some people, some people jealously guard their pain.
Yes.
Some people even make themselves pain prefects in your life. You have let go. How dare you go to Jubilee House? Why? Shoe is not yours. Leg is not yours. Dress is my dress. Why are you pain prefect in my life? No, they can even leave their own and be monitoring your pain and asking you, why are you moving on? Why are you letting go?
Why?
And they'll remind you, that man who did this and this to you, and his family said this, pain prefect. No, so you can stay in that place and you never move, you stultify, you are not growing. Because you are holding on to unforgiveness and bitterness. So you have not even learned the lesson God wanted you to learn. You will stay there and you'll keep repeating the class. Another one will come and they'll do the same thing to you because you're still in a place of pain. You can't even have another non-toxic relationship because you are still carrying the poison. So you are the one creating the toxic environment by not letting go and by not growing and moving on after the storm. Since you want to stay in the storm, God will let you stay there.
So it's important that you celebrate the end of the storm and you
have to.
You shake yourself off every remnant or any part of this storm and start afresh. Okay.
Yes. And so let's make it physical. So the storm has come. Some trees have collapsed. They are blocking the pathway, the driveway into your house. There's garbage all over, especially if it's in Accra. The rain has passed and all the garbage that was in the gutters have been brought out.
Come up, yes.
And you decide to stay there. You won't clean up. Nobody can enter your house because it is full of that. Which sensible person is going to come into your house with garbage all around you? And your argument is, I didn't cause it. Somebody came and did all this and this is the outcome. Okay, stay there in the filth. You are choosing to stay in the filth. You are choosing to remain in the storm and not move on and do the cleanup and move on with your life. So the driveway to your house is blocked. You can't drive out. No cars can drive in. How are the blessings going to come in?
Mm. Okay. So cleanup is important. I mean, you celebrate the end of a thing. You wear your white nice dress, take a nice dance, and be happy that it's finally over.
Storms, if there's one thing that a storm does, a storm validates you.
Mm.
So if you don't move on, I'll come to, if you don't move on, you are denying yourself of that validation. When you survive a storm, it is a badge of validation. See, when Noah started building his ark, everybody thought Noah was a lunatic. Remember, they had never seen rain on earth. And he said he had heard from God and he was building this ark. It is only after the storm came that Noah was validated. I'm sure even his wife had been wondering what he was about and his children. It is only, a storm gives you validation. And the fact that you have gone through that and survived it puts you in a position where you can speak with authority about what you have been through. So Petra, if you have never lost a job, can you come and talk to me about losing a job?
No.
If you have never been treated badly by a spouse, can you come and talk to me? My mother was widowed at 28. There were a lot of people who came and talked to her and she was just staring at them. She was like, you haven't been through what I've been through. What are you talking to me about? We had a friend once who lost her daughter. We had to come together as a group to go and visit her. And when we got there, we all just shut up because we couldn't speak. We had never lost a child. What are you going to say to her? Yeah. And yet she moved on. What do you know about what she's going through? Until you have experienced something, you have not validated. You have no authority to speak to anybody who is going through that kind of storm. So you haven't seen a storm and you're coming to talk to me about a hurricane when you couldn't survive a rainfall. How dare you?
So for the friends,
you must respect what you go through and what you learn from a storm. And that should give you the validation to speak to people who are in that position or that situation.
Okay, thank you, Aunt Charlotte. For the benefit of the friends, so you started talking about Job and how Job's friends were doing well at the beginning, but started being very judgmental. Just a small note on what should we do when we observe a friend going through a storm? We don't have the experience of it. What should our posture be? What should we do? So you just give the example of your friend who lost a child and you went to visit. What should the friends do? Because
when we got there, we all just sat on the floor and we all just wept with her. And when she's weeping, then we're rubbing her back. We had nothing to say. What are you going to say? See, all you have to do is to go and show compassion. That is not the time to go and explain to the person why this has happened to the person.
So it's okay not to say anything. Just be there physically.
Totally okay. I'm praying for you. You're in my thoughts. Is there anything I can do to help? Should we send food? Are you in a position to, do you understand? Just go and show compassion and empathy. That is not the time to tell her about her family line and all the witches in her family and why this is happening to her. Nobody has sent you to go and do CSI divorce there or CSI death. Just go there and shut it. Words can be incredibly harmful. The wrong words can be incredibly harmful.
We have an interesting question here. Cynthia says, using the job as an example, how can you explain a cleanup after the process? So you were just fired, maybe by things you did or things you didn't do. We don't know, but you were taken out of a job. What do you do practically to clean up after that type of storm?
First, you have to have a time of, don't just be talking and running your mouth, just reflect. Why did this happen? Like you said, maybe something you did that was wrong, maybe something others did that was wrong. If it is something others did, how did you enable that? What are the things you should have looked out for, or that things you ignored that you may have seen if you had a different mindset, a different perspective? And then you now start looking around. What are the resources that you have? You'll be surprised at what you're holding and what you can use that for. So what are the skills that you have? Okay, so you're fired from a banking job. Maybe you don't want to go back into banking, but there are some skills there that you can take into another place. So you start auditing your skills, auditing your networks. Who can I speak to about new opportunities? And you're praying. God is giving you direction. What direction should you be looking at? Where should you be going? You know, God doesn't come down and hand over our answers to our prayers in a nice package with a ribbon. He uses people. So be open also. Do not shut yourself off from everybody. Mm-hmm. Keep a door open, because you never know who is going to be the link in the chain of your good, who is going to open new opportunities and new doors for you. It may have been a storm of redirection. So if you shut yourself off, there's no way God is going to can use people to redirect you into where he wants you to be. So you need to be open. And of course, yes, in opening yourself again, some of those wasters will come. Block them. If they're not talking sense, mute them. It's not every group, every WhatsApp group you must be in. And you know, especially for people who are Christians and Muslims, even people in your faith can be harmful to you. You need to be very careful who you open yourself up to. And then allow God to do his work. You know, and there's this famous quote that when you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person that walked in. That's what the storm is all about. So recognize the new, stronger person you've become and start figuring out how can you harness those strengths that you've discovered, the new wisdom that you have. And they say that, you know, at the end of the storm is always the light of a new beginning. But you have to position yourself to be facing that light and looking towards that light. Otherwise, you may miss it. So there's a lot of value in that storm, but you need to position yourself well and have the right mindset to be able to harness the benefits of the storm.
So, Charlotte, you started talking about the value of the storms. I think maybe we should just go there, because we just have about 26 minutes.
I'll finish with the value of the storm. I talk about the validation you get, the wisdom you get, the stronger version of you that emerges.
I have a question.
Okay. I think the next thing we'll talk about is maybe like doing a storm plan. How do you?
Yes, the recovery plan.
With your, yeah. Tega has a question.
There was one time I was listening to you when you're talking about how to go through a storm, and that time you used gardening as an example, the phases of when you are taking care of a plant. Yeah. And you talked about the pruning phase. Maybe if the plant is having, I don't know nothing about plants.
Clearly.
And when you talked about how you have to sometimes cut away some of the leaves, or sometimes you just let the plant regrow and break out of the pot. All these plenty plant things. I don't know.
You want me to talk about it or what?
Yeah, but what I wanted you to focus on is pruning of people, because I see that some people here are millennials, and you know how we think sometimes it's like,
in your head space. The millennials are in their head space.
And when sometimes as Charlotte say, let's prune, so God, block it from my phone. So I think that you should talk about sometimes a wiser way to go about, you know, protecting your space and your energy, because in all honesty, you as an older, mature, wiser women, you have the ability to cut out people. See, let me tell people something. One day I was just there, and then a new number WhatsApped me. I was like, who is this one? And I just looked at the name. It was Auntie Charlotte. She's like, I've changed my number. This is the new one. I'm like, what happened here? She has changed the number. She has blocked people. I was like, oh, wow. So I just want you to speak a little bit on how to do that. So
let me tell you, in fact, while we're talking about the value of the storm, okay, let's talk about pruning and let's talk about stress blooms. Two imageries from gardening. So when you can have a plant that is not, it's growing, but is not producing fruit. And sometimes, take like a rose bush, it may be producing flowers, but they'll tell you that when you prune, when you cut dead some of the branches and whatever, when you cut, that's the pruning, the branches produce more stems. So you actually, you'll have a period where it looks ugly, but give it some time, it will actually produce more blossoms than you had before. Same as a fruit tree. So you have your citrus tree growing, it's growing this way. If you cut it, if you prune it, it will produce more branches and spread out this way, and you'll get more fruit. So that's the value of the pruning. And what I was trying to say in that thing was, you've gone through a storm. You know who the weak people in your life are. You know the people who sow negative energy into your life. You know the people who just come and want to depress you rather than uplifting you. Mm-hmm. You need to minimize their access to you. Mm-hmm. They may even be family members. You need to minimize their access to you. And that's the blocking. Sometimes you can block and open them only on Sundays. Sometimes you can just change your number, depending on the level of toxicity. Some people, you may just have to block permanently and engage, because it's access. You see, and what you hear, faith comes by hearing. What you hear constantly becomes your reality. So they are feeding into your mindset. So you need to be able to manage that. Also talking about plants, there are some plants that you can have, like a fruit tree, and it can be there 5 years, 6 years. It's taking all your water, all the sunlight, all the fertilizer. It is not producing fruit. Mm-hmm. Now, the horticulturists tell us that if you take a knife or a machete or a cutlass, depending on the size of the plant, and you cut, you hack into the stem without cutting it off. You just cut it, it's like you're wounding it. Mm-hmm. That stress makes the plant think it's going to die. Mm-hmm. And because it must reproduce before it dies, it starts producing fruit. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that is what the storms do to us. Mm-hmm. The crisis, the storms, they actually make you more fruitful, because when you heal from those wounds, which is why the healing, again, Petra, is important, you get into a period of growth. Remember, we talked about a storm preceding elevation. That is what you see, the wounds, your scars are now like badges of honor. It's strength. You've survived this, you've learned. It makes you more productive going ahead. So there's a lot of value to pruning. There's a lot of value to surviving a storm. There's a lot of value to gathering yourself after a storm and looking ahead.